It's the Locked On Flyers podcast for Tuesday, October 22nd, your daily dose of Flyers news, analysis, and high quality content that is ready for the Washington Capitals.
Yeah, should be fun.
You're Locked On Flyers, your daily podcast on the Philadelphia Flyers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, and thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen every day. I am Rachel Donner. You can find me on Twitter at rmiriam. I'm here as always with Russ Cohen, who's on all your favorite social media apps at Sportsology. The show is at Locked On Flyers on Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and Twitter as well. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit fanduel.com to get started. You can find us over on YouTube or on the SiriusXM app or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Subscribe to get our latest episode as soon as it's available here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Russ, I'm sure much to your chagrin as well as mine, we learned yesterday that Emil Andrae is returning to the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, unfortunately, without checking into any games.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to make excuses for the Flyers and say, well, he was the just in case guy. There was certainly cause to use him, and I think there's still cause to use him. But now with Nick Seeler back, it's not going to happen. So it's fine, whatever. Maybe he'll get a chance this year. Maybe he won't.
Yeah, I think it is just disappointing because the opportunity was there, to your point. But Nick Seeler appears to be back in the lineup tonight. He was in practice yesterday, and all indication says he'll play. And I think that's a good thing. I don't, begrudge Nick Seeler getting back in the lineup.
No,
I
no,
think
no. I mean, that's fine. I mean, really, if you want me to spell it out, it could be Andre versus Zamula, but he's not being given a chance. Zamula's not been great the last 3 games. So
Yeah, I think so. I think he's been used incorrectly, but also I think that, he can step it up a little bit. But I think he'll have different kinds of minutes now with
yeah.
Sealer back in the lineup. So we'll see if that, you know, helps him. In the meantime, Sam Ersson will be starting in net tonight, to be determined if Fedotov will start in the second half of the back-to-back
I
here.
would
We
think
haven't.
you would.
You would think so, but, we'll see, I think,
True.
which is, something we'll talk about in our Phantoms Tuesday segment later in the show, is the thing that makes me question that. So, we'll get to that a little bit later, but I'm just wondering, like, what you think now, given how Fedotov has played so far, like, what's the leash on him? Like, how much leeway is he gonna be given?
Oh, I think 3, 4, 5 more games. I mean, he's making $1.5 million. The Flyers are right now cap strapped. They could bring up Kolosov, sure, but you can't bury all of Fedotov's money. So, until the Johansson thing is settled, they're going to have even less cap space then. So I don't expect them to make a decision soon. I mean, again, and to be fair and to put it out there like this, if they are truly a rebuilding team, they have to give him more rope.
Yeah, they do. They absolutely do. And I think that, I have been very skeptical of his play so far, but I can keep both thoughts in my head at the same time. I don't like
Right.
what he's done so far, but I don't think it's enough time to
Right.
say he's working or not working. So I think we're just going to go from there. But I think it's also something important to keep an eye on. Looking at the lines from practice yesterday, John Tortorella said that the lineup isn't set for a couple of reasons. Number one, some guys have some bumps and bruises, so he doesn't know if they're going to be good to go. But more happily, Scott Lawton and his wife are expecting a baby that's happening any minute. Could be born by the time you're listening to this. We don't know
Yep.
yet. But I think, and they made special arrangements with an extra plane over the road trip. So the timing is imminent here. And so that will determine some things for sure. But I think that, as far as the top six, we're probably set in terms of Frost centering Forster and Konechny. And they moved Paling up, which again, we've talked about, like, you can't move Paling up. I think that it would be better for Couturier to center Tippett and
Of course it would
Michkov.
be.
But again, I think that I just don't think Torts is willing to do that right now.
Yeah, I mean, why? Why is he not willing to do that? Doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Just
it
doesn't
doesn't
make
make sense
sense.
to me either. But we'll see how it comes out in the wash, and because all of this could be moot by the time the lineup gets set. And if he's one of the guys that's banged up, that could be a reason as well that they're trying to shelter him.
Yeah, I mean, okay. But here's the thing. With Michkov, you can't keep changing his line mates. You have to have him have set line mates for a while. He's just getting used to this league. Give him a chance. Give him, 3, 4, 5 games with one line. You have to do that. I don't know why they're not.
Yeah, and to me, that would be Farabee and Frost.
Yeah,
I think that's the right way to go right now, and just keep that line together for at least 3 games, to your point. But we'll see. We'll see what the Lawton situation is. We'll see who else might be banged up. Luchenko was the extra forward in the lines at practice, so maybe he's not going to play this first game against the
I don't
Caps.
think he's playing.
Yeah, so I think that's had an effect. I think Cates will check into the lineup, which will be a good
He
thing.
will. You know,
So
something to point out. Uh Devils are in first place. Seamus Casey had 3 or 4 goals. They sent him down.
yeah.
They said it's not his play. His play was really good. They want him to develop correctly. The Flyers are going to have to make this decision. They are.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so. Sort of in addition to all of that, there's just some things, that we've been able to see in these first 5 games. And I think that one of the things that we talked a lot about last season that has been missing, I think so far, is the resilience that the
Mhm.
team had last season. I think they were able to just hunker down, even when they went down early in a game, they were able to recover and at least play out the rest of the game well. And I just don't see that same level of resilience that they've had in the past. And I don't know what the difference is. I don't know what's missing, but there is something to that, I think.
I think there's something to it. I think the difference is just the simple, hey, they like Sam Ersson, but he's not yet the leader in net that Carter Hart was. Sam Ersson has had some nice games, but he can't crack the 900 save percentage or 90% save percentage where Carter Hart would be over that easy every time. That helps you come back in games when you have a guy that isn't going to give anything up for the next period and a half, 2 periods while you're trying to catch up. I think that's why.
Yeah, I think it's part of it, for sure. I think that it's the combination of the defensive structure in front of him and him letting in an errant goal here and there,
Right.
that has kind of added up to this. And I think, you look at last season's defensive structure, it was so regimented, and it's just not like that right now. And I think that has led to a lack of confidence overall. But again, it's so hard to talk about patterns this early,
Mhm.
but you have to some
But
degree
you
in
could
order
talk
to
about
make
differences, like
incremental.
we see a
Mhm.
difference. You can't say it's all the same players, it should all be the same. Everything changes all the time. You put 1 or 2 guys in there, it's different, and things change, but a goalie is a big change.
Yeah, and you have to be able to make these observations in order to make some incremental change to try and
Right,
improve things, regardless of, how many games of a pattern you have. So I
right.
think that's important. And then obviously, I think the power play has been good. It's been better for sure,
I
but
mean,
I
the top
think
power
there's
play has
where.
been good and better. The
Yeah.
second power play has not.
Right, and they were better in the first
For
game.
the
That's what's
game
so
for a
funny.
game.
In
Yeah.
that first game, and then after that, it just kinda bottomed out, I think, and that they just don't have a strong sense of, like, chemistry there. Now it's
Or if they
interesting.
only had a player that could actually run the power play and shoot the puck on net and handle the puck and really get it into the zone. If they only had that type of player, Rachel, it's just,
Well, one of the things that you've mentioned is wanting to get Sean Couturier on power play too, and they
And
did
now it
do
will.
that
Yes.
in practice. So I think that is a good sign
That'll
that,
help
they're listening to us a little bit
a little bit.
maybe and um and getting, you know, Couturier in there because I think he'll settle them down a little bit and be able like to help them once they're in the zone. He's not a get them set up guy, but he's a once they're in the zone, he'll be
Yeah.
able to be really strong there.
Yeah, no, I think that'll help a lot. I do still think I'd like to see Bobby Brink improve, like, if he gets a shot, that he doesn't
Mhm.
completely come be out of position or whatever and never can get another shot. Like, it always just seems like you get one shot out of Brink, and then after that, you're not getting it. You're not getting another one. I don't know why.
I don't know either, but, I think it's gonna be interesting to see how this back-to-back goes and if any changes they make improve things. We are gonna talk about this matchup against the Washington Capitals coming up next.
Hey, NFL fans, you could start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, forget having to have dozens of tabs open. You could check out the latest stats, view live play by play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bet. And there's so much more action besides the NFL with the NHL season underway. There's a variety of options for hockey fans. FanDuel has daily specials like total home team goals for the day, highest scoring game, fastest goal scored, and more. I'm still going to give a football one here. I think take the Bears over the Commanders. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's fanduel.com.
On tomorrow's show, we will recap the first of the two games against the Washington Capitals and talk about adjustments for the road portion of the back to back. Plus, we'll answer your mailbag questions. So get those in. You can email us at lockdownflyers@gmail, send us a message on Twitter, or comment over on YouTube. The Washington Capitals have said that Charlie Lindgren will start in the first game and Logan Thompson will start in net for the second game for sure. As we know, Sam Urson is going to be in net for the Flyers. So it'll be sort of the top goaltenders against each other. And in theory, the backup goaltenders against each other in DC.
Yeah, so I think that the center matchup's tough here because you have Strong, Pierre-Luc Dubois, and then Hendricks Lapierre. Now, maybe you could take advantage because you're at home with Lapierre. If he matches up against Couturier, you could take advantage of that. Beyond that, those other two centers are really good, and they're good at faceoffs, and that's still going to be an issue, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And, we've talked in the past, like when we preview games like this, especially last season, I'm always like, look at the second line and see how your first line matches up against them.
Right.
And so you have Pierre-Luc Dubois with Connor McMichael and Tom Wilson. Now, Tom Wilson so far for the team, he's got 5 goals in 4 games thus
Yep.
far, and we know he's an agitator, and
Yep.
especially so against the Flyers. It just seems like something is there every single game. McMichael, I think, is underappreciated or a little bit by those outside Washington, and I think that just that line to me seems very scary.
Yeah, and I don't expect Scott Lawton to be in there, so I think they're gonna miss that extra little hustle that he'll have. Something also about the Flyers' game plan last time, I hope it was just what they thought they saw against, Vancouver, and that was how many wraparounds were they trying? It was ridiculous. They eventually got away from it, but I hope that's not just like, "Hey, we should try wraparounds more," just because Lawton scored on 1 or 2 of them. Uh, I think goalies are pretty good these days, and it's hard to get wraparound goals, to be honest.
Yeah, the Caps won Saturday against the Devils in overtime. Ovi got his first goal of the season in that game. The Caps had been up by 2 though, and the Devils did tie it up. Now the Devils obviously leading the division at this point are better
Yeah.
than they were last year. We all know
Oh, yeah.
that. But the Devils did come from behind and tie it up in the third period. But Tom Wilson, aforementioned goal scorer, got the OT winner. But I think one of the fascinating things about this game that I'm wondering how the Flyers can exploit if they repeat this for some reason. The top defensive pairing of Carlson and Chikrin. Carlson had 28 minutes of time on ice, and Chikrin had 27 and a half.
Yeah,
Like,
because
that's
they
crazy.
it is crazy, but I mean, when you're playing, no offense to Dylan McElrath, I mean, he's very physical, but when you're playing a guy like McElrath, he's not going to play the full game. So you have to make up a difference there. But the Flyers do have to worry about the size and strength of the Capitals because now they're really big and beefed up with Protas and guys like McElrath.
Mhm.
And, even Carlson's a big guy. Uh,
Right.
this is a worry. This is a little bit of a worry because even someone like Cam York now kind of looks a little smallish compared to some of the Capitals defensemen, other than maybe Rasmus Sandin.
Right, and that's where I think that the Flyers have to gut away from some of the longer passes that they've done.
Yeah.
We have to have super short, super quick passes, boom, 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 up the ice for the Flyers. I think that's the only way around this Caps team,
Yeah.
and it's not something they do all the time. They're very much into only 1 or 2 passes to get all the way down the ice, and I think it's gonna have to be like 2 to 4 passes we're looking
Yeah.
at here, right?
It is, and I think, like, first period, don't activate the defenseman. Like, they're
Be a
activating
little
too much.
conservative.
Yeah, be a little conservative against this team. I think you could have a problem if you're not.
Right, and that's that comes along with what I'm saying, right?
Yes.
Where the defense just has to get rid of the puck on the breakout pretty
Yep.
quickly and let the forwards carry it up, hang
Yes.
back a little bit, and be support
Now, after a
there.
period, if you're down by 2 or you see that you're missing some offensive jump, then do it. But don't just do it as a rule. That's the one thing I think there's too much freedom for these guys to do that, and I think it's costing them in some of these games.
Yeah, I think this would be a good game to try out something different for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
The Caps have 3 more goals in 1 less game played than the Flyers and 7 fewer goals against. So I think, obviously the key here is the Flyers got to score some goals. And the
You have to
only way
hit
they're
the
going to,
net. You
yeah,
have to hit the net. I mean, I know it sounds like ridiculous, but you hit the net, anything can happen. But they have too many guys missing the net, especially Tippett.
right. And we talked about that a lot on
Yes.
yesterday's show. But I think it has to come from everybody across the board that there has to be better shots, better quality shots. And in order to get those quality shots, you have to get the Caps moving. You have to get their defenders moving. You have to get the goaltender moving. And
Yeah.
that's more rapid passes, a lot of tic tac toe plays. Activate Mitchkov behind the net while protecting him so he doesn't
Well,
get
that's the problem
hammered.
is you can't match him up
Yeah,
against the second line. If you
I
have
know.
Tom Wilson on the ice with Mitchkov, he is going to go after him.
Right, right, and you have to protect Mitchkov, but you also can't get yourself in penalty trouble here
Right.
because the Caps are going to take advantage of that. But I will say that the power play has been the Caps' weak point thus far. They're only 2 for 13. So,
Sure. I mean,
uh,
and you would think it would get better, but yeah, maybe they're going to struggle that way. Um, Also, you got to have a guy like Hathaway hold his head.
mhm.
When he plays against the Caps, he seems to lose it at times because of I used to play for you, and him and Wilson there seems to be too much of that, and you can't do too much of that, especially when you're not winning games. And so I think the Flyers have to be wary of that.
Yeah, I think so too. But the Caps do have that higher shooting percentage at
Yeah.
13.7 to the Flyers 8.6, which is a very huge margin
Oh
right
yeah.
now. And so that's where we're saying the Flyers have to shoot more accurately. I think
Yes.
they're getting the shots on net from certain guys. Other guys have to step up a little bit more, and then
Yeah.
they just have to be on net. That's really it's the very basic formula in this game.
It is.
You gotta score
Pucks
goals.
to the
And
net.
yep, yep. And you hate to be cliche about it, but this is a situation where it absolutely is the way to go here, right?
I think so. Yeah. I would be preaching that. I would.
Yeah. So it should be a really interesting matchup. Again, with the back to back, there's all sorts of room for hostility to develop, which always gets things a little more spicy. But I think it should be a good set of games and a really good, I think, benchmark for the Flyers in terms of kind of figuring out where they are, figuring out tweaks they have to make. Very good to do that against a division rival
Yeah.
because, the stakes are a little bit more escalated in a situation like
Yeah.
this. So,
Well, I mean, just
uh,
look at what happened last year. I mean, you don't have to look anything more.
yeah, so I am very much looking forward to it. But I did mention some questions about Fedotov and if he would start in the second game, and that's because of what Aleksei Kolosov did with the Lehigh Valley Phantoms this past
Or
weekend.
didn't
And
do.
we are going to talk about all of that and how the Phantoms did in their first sort of more regular looking weekend coming up next. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. One of the things I love about Indeed is that it makes hiring all in one place so easy because you can avoid a ton of busy work. You can use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Listeners of Locked On Flyers will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/locked on. Just go to Indeed.com/locked on right now and support Locked On Flyers by saying you heard about Indeed on the show. That's Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. All right. So the Lehigh Valley Phantoms had a rough weekend back to back against the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins, losing both games. First one 4-3. The second one was a shutout 3-0 that happened at the same time as the Flyers got shut out 3-0. Super great. Love that. Anyway, I think um, a couple of just quick notes before we get to Kolosov, because that is the main topic here. But Rizzo and Richard both got banged up on Friday, so they didn't play on Saturday. And these two losses were for very different reasons. And I think both of them had some really good things to come out of it, even though they were losses. And, the shutout looks bad, but one of them was an empty net goal. And, it was a really remarkable game, I would say. On Saturday, the Phantoms outshot Wilkes-Barre Scranton 41-17 and still
Wow.
lost 3-0. So I think, the reason why you want to talk about Aleksei Kolosov in these games is because he played both games of the back-to-back here. And I think that it was, indicated from the broadcast to some degree that it was because the organization wanted him to play both games and that playing Cal Peterson in one of these games wasn't of use to them. And I think that that could be true, but I also think that Kolosov made a very terrible mistake in the first game on one of the goals. He tried to clear it and it wasn't hard enough and it was in the wrong direction and a Pens player picked it off and scored a goal. And I think like when you make a mistake like that, it's going to haunt you a little bit, and it was probably a good thing for him to play the next game to kind of reset mentally after that. So I would lean more toward that as a reason.
Okay. I mean, I also would say Joe Blomqvist is a very good goalie. Like he uh, could be up soon with the Penguins. I was having a lot of conversations with Penguins fans and other people in Pittsburgh recently. So that's another thing. They weren't able to
Yeah.
solve him, and he is on a pretty good run right now.
Yeah, I mean, he had a terrible game before that.
Yeah.
I think he let in 7 goals in the previous game. So he was trying to get back on the horse. So
Right.
there was that aspect of it too. Nedeljkovic was in net for the Pens on the Friday game because he was on a conditioning stint,
Yeah.
and the Pens goaltending is such a mess that they called him up immediately after
Right.
that game.
Yeah.
So, they faced two very tough goaltenders in
Yeah.
these games,
And that's a
and that had
factor.
a lot to do with it. Yeah.
It's a factor. They're taking too many penalties still. I mean, that's a
Yeah,
factor too.
and I will say in that first game on Friday, absolutely 7 penalty kill situations, not okay.
No.
In the second game on Saturday, only 1 penalty kill. So
Yeah.
they really did, like, button
They
things
bear
up.
down. Yeah.
They bear down, they put a ton of shots on net, super disciplined, I think it was just a combination of a lack of finish and getting goalied in that second game, like, and I wouldn't say it was a bad game at all,
Okay. No, that's
despite
fine. I get
what
it.
the score was. I would say that looking at some individual players. Samu Tuomaala had a really great move to set up Eklund on Friday for the first goal and kind of their comeback attempt. By the way, the Phantoms were down 4-0 after the first period on Friday. It was an abysmal period. The whole rest of the game was so much better, and they really put a strong comeback attempt in, and the score wound up being 4-3. And I'm sure you appreciated when Lappy pulled the goalie with like 6 minutes to
Oh
go
yeah. Yeah,
in
yeah.
that one because you like an early goalie.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, it's try something, and he did. So I do
yeah,
appreciate that. I am a little worried though about the games ahead because Grand Rapids is a tough team, and that's they have 2 games against Grand Rapids. They have some really good prospects there, so that's something where I'm going to watch and see how they do against them.
yeah, they have a full weekend ahead of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 in a row. So they're at Hartford on Friday and have the back to back against Grand Rapids on Saturday and Sunday at home. So at least those 2 games are at home. And Hartford isn't that far away, so the travel isn't going to be too bad. They haven't seen Grand Rapids again. They're mixing stuff up in the schedule this year a little bit, and so
Yeah,
Grand Rapids, I don't think has played the Phantoms in like 15 years or something.
I
So
mean, some guys to watch like Nate Danielson's super talented. Carter Mazer. Remember, Elmer Soderblom is 6'8", but he actually has really good moves. So this is another guy that William Molinder, the defenseman's really good. They've got some guys,
yeah,
and net you might see Kosa, you might see Huso. Huso was down there, so I don't know. I mean, that's an NHL quality goalie if he's still down there.
the good news is that even in these losses, I saw some really good things from Samu Tuomaala. Like I said, Elliot Desnoyers, I think, is looking better than he did last season. I don't think he's 100% there yet, but so far
He's got
looking
to
better.
finish though, right?
He had some real solid chances on Saturday. Helge Grans continues to play really well.
Yeah,
Jacob Gaucher, fourth liner, second goal of the season on Friday. I would say Richard looked really good in the one game he played. Got his speed is so much fun to watch. Especially at the AHL level, it is enhanced a little bit more.
right.
And he's end to end in no
Oh
time.
yeah,
So
no, he's
I think
fast. They need to
that
score
has
more
been
goals though,
fun.
right? They're not scoring
Yeah.
enough goals. They're not.
Right. And I think again, the first game, the first period was terrible and they played well for the second 2 periods generally.
Now
And
Andre will
then
help
in
them.
that
Like they don't
yeah,
have
I
any
think
goals
so.
from a defenseman. None.
Um no, I think did Samson score a goal?
Oh no, he did.
Uh,
Sorry. Yep, he's
so
the one.
Samson is another guy who's standing out in a really
Yes.
good way.
Yeah,
He's
he's the
playing very
one. He's
well.
got the one goal. Yep.
Yeah, he's stepping up offensively. He's playing a solid defensive game. And I think he's gonna surprise a lot of people
We
this
like
season.
Samson. I think he's a good
Yeah,
player.
yeah. I absolutely like him. And right now he's been on the middle pairing with Adam Ginning, and I think it's a really good combination. And so I think being with Ginning is gonna help Samson and kinda let Samson do his thing because Ginning is so responsible defensively.
Yeah.
And I would say J.R. Avon looks pretty good so far.
Yeah. They don't
Small
have a
sample
plus
size,
player on the
but
team, which is a little concerning.
well, they're getting outscored.
I know.
It's not great, but they've only played 3 games so far.
Right, and
So,
that's why I won't get
um,
crazy.
Yeah, and I think this weekend, with it's their first 3-game weekend, this will be the first time to really see, okay, what does this team got? They're gonna have to put Cal Peterson in one of these games for sure. And, who's gonna check into the lineup? We saw Sawyer Bolton get his debut on Saturday, and we saw Brown check in on Saturday as well. So, like, what combination of players are we going to see? Who's going to be
Right.
healthy? I think that's going to be, a big deal this weekend. But I'm very much looking forward to talking about the Phantoms again next week because I think, again, Hartford, a real tough opponent, as we've already seen, because that was the home opener opponent. And then this kind of mystery, really good team in Grand Rapids, who they've basically never seen.
Right.
So I think it should be really fun and
Yeah,
a
it'll be
real
telling.
yeah. Yeah, I think so. But so far, so good in terms of getting some good information from the Phantoms games thus far. And I think after next weekend, we can start to evaluate, okay, who might be in a good spot for a call up, especially with Andre checking in, right?
Yep. Nope. That's fair.
All right. Looking forward to getting back to the show tomorrow, where we're going to talk about the Washington Capitals game and answer your mailbag questions. Make sure to get those in on Twitter at Locked On Flyers. You can email us at lockedonflyers@gmail or comment over on our YouTube channel. I'm Rachel. I'm on Twitter at rmiriam. That's RMIRIAM.
I'm Russ. I'm at Sportsology, SPORTSOLOGY.
Thanks for making Locked On Flyers your first listen. For your second listen, find Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey over on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Have a great day, everyone.